I'm Stephen Brubaker, administrator from Faith Builders. And Faith Builders, of course, is the organization behind Faith Builders Scholarship Services, which operates the EITC program. As I said, I'm from Faith Builders. We are located in Guys Mills, and our campus is an old public school building. This is our current staff and student body. And so this is the group that I get to work with on a regular basis. Now I think we have all come out here this evening because we care about Christian schools. And we care about putting our money where our heart is. And so it's that purpose for which we gather. Faith Builders is dedicated to serving Christian schools. We do that in a variety of ways. We have a 2-year program for preparing teachers, a teacher apprenticing program. We also have a Teachers Week that we operate every August. About 350, 400 teachers for that. We have a summer term where about 80 different teachers come. And we have an administrators conference in January. And in addition, we have some curriculum development efforts. So just a variety of ways we're trying to support Christian education, particularly from a conservative Anabaptist perspective. Another way that we serve our schools is through our scholarship program, Faith Builders Scholarship Services. And just a brief history here. The program started in 2001. Faith Builders began to be involved in 2002. And that year, the size of the program was $20 million of tax credits available. In 2020, last year, it was $175 million. So it's a very popular program here in the state of Pennsylvania. It has grown significantly in the last 18 years. From here on, I'm basically going to be talking about the scholarship organization that Faith Builders operates. In that first year, we had 2 donors of 27, and now in 2020, we have 279 donors. There were 8 schools participating there in 2002, 111 schools last year. And in addition, the 2 donors in 2002 gave $27,500. The donations through Faith Builder Scholarship Services in this last year was over $5.5 million. So that's a lot of money that's going to our schools. We are grateful for the availability of this program here in Pennsylvania. One of you brothers already told me you wish it was available in Maryland, where you're from. But it has been a tremendous blessing. Now, before we get into the details, the what and how of EITC and SPE, I want to begin with the why. Why is this program helpful? Why is it a blessing? And so I'm going to invite 3 administrators up here. Dan, Arlen, Laverne, you go ahead and make your way up, take these stools. These are administrators from schools that have benefited from this program. I just wanted you to hear a bit from them, both what's happening in your school, and then how EITC is helpful to you. So we're going to begin with Dan.
Okay, good evening, y'all. I am from Terryhill Mennonite High School, and we are a conservative Anabaptist high school. We serve approximately 30 Anabaptist churches. And so it's a big project that many people are participating in. And our goal, our mission is to prepare young people to contribute back into the community, to society. We're preparing young people for service in God's kingdom. And we just really believe that education is a community project. It's not something that one person can do by themselves, but it takes a whole entire community working together to do this. And I recognize that we're just one school, there's 2 other individuals here, and there's other schools represented. This is something we're all working together at. We had about 75 families represented at Terry Hill this year. 40 of them are participating in EITC. And so it's been a huge blessing to us. Often, we all know that Christian education is expensive. There's a sacrifice involved. And it's very common to get a call from someone, and the first question they ask is, what does it cost to send a child to your school? You say, well, right now the cost for one child is $5,495. And I recognize that price varies. I was at a school the other day, it was about $9,000 for one child. And so, but you quickly hear this like sigh, and they almost are ready to give up. And say, but wait. We need to talk to you about other options, and then we can introduce EITC. And for some people, that's what makes a difference. That allows Christian education to become a possibility. And so when I think of EITC, I think of a backpacking trip we did some time ago with some of the students a number of years ago, and there was a young student who could barely carry their pack. And they got weighted down, and after a bit somebody came alongside of them and said, here, can I take some of that? And they shouldered some of it for him. And so we were able to help him make the trip by helping to carry his burden. I think it's a biblical concept out of Galatians. One of our concerns is that, maybe people are going to take for granted the cost of Christian education. But I do think we need to realize that the mechanism that's in place that FB uses to distribute the funds kind of prohibits that from happening. And so what I mean by that is everybody that's able to still carry their own pack does. But the people that need help are able to get the help to make Christian education a viable option. And so it's been a huge blessing to us. I know some of you, we have anonymous contributors to our school. Maybe it's some of you. So thank you very much. It's been a blessing.
Thank you, Dan. And now Laverne.
All right, well, good evening. And I'm Laverne Beachy. I'm the camp administrator at Bald Eagle Boys Camp in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, which is north of Interstate 80, about 3 hours from here. And some of you have been there. And if you haven't been there, I invite you to come see us. I'd love to show you around. We are a school, an outdoor therapeutic school. We work with boys ages 9 to 16. And primarily the boys that come to camp are boys that aren't doing so well at home or school and have been kicked out of school or placed in other agencies and so on. And so they end up coming to camp because it's not working anywhere else. And so we're an outdoor therapeutic program. We're licensed by the Department of Human Services of Pennsylvania. And we're licensed for 40 boys, and we pretty much stay full with 40 boys at camp. Just brought a boy today, just came today, and he's bright-eyed and wondering what's going to happen the next little while. But he's there to learn and grow. One thing unique about our program is every boy that comes to camp chooses to come to camp. We're going to teach them a lot of life skills and a lot of things about how to be a good dad someday, how to be a good husband, how to take care of his finances. We're teaching a lot of that kind of hands-on kind of education. And they come to camp because they choose to. And we explain the program to them, we help them understand, you come to camp, this is an opportunity for you to make some changes. And do you want to come to camp? Do you think something at camp here is going to help you? And most times after the tour, after they meet a group that they'd be a part of, they say yes. And it doesn't mean every day at camp is amazing and awesome for them. It's some pretty hard days. But every boy chose to come. And we all know that. His whole group knows that. And so those hard days, we know that he committed to come, and he's going to hang in there. Now, one thing that we'll say there's two reasons to come to camp. One is to help yourself, and the other one is to help others. And that's kind of our what we push. I mean, it's not about coming to camp to be a great swimmer or be the best backpacker or the guy that builds the best tents, but it's about helping yourself, which in turn is helping others. So we're really trying to mold young men into being responsible and men that leave camp with a lot of new life skills to apply to their families initially, and then future homes and so on. Like was mentioned, a lot of our families that bring boys to camp, they call us and say, hey, can we come to camp? What does it cost? And that's the question, right? And if we tell them, yeah, we get that same sigh, and we're not sure we can do that. But through this program, it's helped us be able to say, you know what, well, you can still come to camp. We're not going to let finances stop us. If your boy wants help, and you want help, we can help. And that's because of this program, and you all helping us. So it's been really awesome doing that, and we don't need to turn families away. In fact, even right before this program, we tried not to, but this makes it much easier not to turn anybody away. Because we can afford them, they can afford to come, and they're going to still have to, we expect them to give some money too. They're not going to, it's not a free ride, but we look at their finances, and then we figure out how much the scholarships can help, and so on. So yeah, we have 40 boys at camp. We have 4 different groups at camp, two counselors in each group, and they live in a campsite. They build a campsite together. They work together, and yeah, we try to teach responsibility. That's kind of what we want to do. One other neat thing about camp too is not only are we trying to change the boy, but we're trying to help families, right? This boy's going back to his family someday, and if we don't help families, then we're kind of sending boys back to the same environment they were in, right? And so we try really hard to get involved with families. We have family workers at camp. They get down to their homes and try to teach some families some values as well, so that when the boy comes home, there's some things that have changed. And ultimately, we want every boy to find the Lord at camp. That's our goal, and see Jesus through us. So yeah, that's a little bit of who we are, and yeah, appreciate you all. And again, the Faith Builders, like was mentioned, maybe don't be alarmed or scared about how hard this might be to sign up and do this, because Faith Builders does a great job of helping us be really students. Because at our office, if we have questions, we call, and Vivian and company take care of it really good. And so don't let the paperwork or this whatever scare you from doing this, because Faith Builders make it really easy. So thanks for coming out.
Thanks, Laverne. Arlen.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. And like was mentioned, thanks for coming out. Pretty interested in this program. I'm the principal at Fairview Christian School in Reading, Pennsylvania, in the city of Reading there. It was started in 1977, I believe, by Jay Fox. He was the pastor there at Fairview Mennonite Church and lived in the city and really saw a need for another opportunity for outreach. Church is great. Church is a great way to reach people. City ministries, Tuesday night children's ministries, are a great way to reach people. But there's something about a school when they come for 7-8 hours a day, 5 days a week, where they're just a great opportunity for impact. And so Jay started the school there in the church basement, and primarily for church families, the Fairview Mennonite Church, and then also for local community children. And it was in the church basement for many years. And year 2000, we moved to our current building. And today we have about 150 students, about 20 full-time teachers, and our vision is largely the same. And that's to educate church families, Fairview Mennonite Church, as well as people who live in the surrounding Reading area there. And also to keep being that outreach to the local community. And like was mentioned, cost is just a big part of that. It takes a lot of costs to run an organization, to pay quality staff, at least a reasonable amount. I think Jay Fox started out, granted it was a long time ago, but he made a whopping sum of $5,000 a year his first year, I think. And so this program has been a huge blessing. I just checked today in preparation for tonight. I think about 1/3 of our tuition comes from EITC, and we handle it probably a little bit differently. we try to, most of the Mennonite families would pay the full amount, the full price. And so we try to keep our tuition as reasonable as we can so that we're not overwhelming anybody. But, and then we use most of the most of the EITC for community families. Reading is generally a lower income area, especially in the city there. And if they had to pay the full amount, they probably wouldn't be there is the bottom line. So I deal with a lot of those same phone calls. And so we do ask them to contribute a little bit, often at least $100 a month, unless it's an extreme situation. And then the rest is made up through EITC funds. So it's been a huge blessing. So we're very appreciative. Like was mentioned, all the work Faith Builders puts into it. There's many questions through this process, especially this time of year, and often they get back within a few hours or the same day. So it's been a very easy process on our end. And thank you to all of you. I think some of you already contribute. Yeah, it's made our ministry possible in a lot of ways. It really has, and so we're very thankful for that.
Vivian, I'm going to start with you here this evening. Why don't we start with you just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I'm Vivian Mast, and I'm the Scholarship Services Coordinator. I started with scholarships about 9 years ago. At that point, I did mostly families and schools. And then it was about 5 years ago, I took over as a coordinator. It's when I started really working with businesses and kind of got my head wrapped around what EITC really is.
So, for those of you who have worked with Faith Builder Scholarship Services, Vivian is the voice that you are familiar with. And now you can make a connection with her face as well. Vivian, EITC, 4 letters, help us understand, what is this thing?
Yeah, in just really short, EITC is a program that allows a business or individual to receive a 90% tax credit in exchange for giving money to a private school and private education. And I'm just going to walk down here through a quick example here. So let's say you owe $9,000 in tax on Pennsylvania state tax. You give $10,000 to a school of your choice. Now you have to give that to a scholarship organization. But you give $10,000, you receive a 90% tax credit. That makes your tax zero that you pay. So you ended up giving $1,000 to a school to give the school $10,000 is basically how it ends up. Then the next question that comes with this is, so what happens with that $10,000 when I give it to the scholarship organization? So of that $10,000, 5% is what we keep for our overhead. That's how we're able to keep the program going. And then 95% goes directly to the school. Now, of that 95%, the state says that 80% must go to family tuition. So that's what you were hearing the men from the schools talking, that's where the scholarships come from. If you're doing your math, you know there's 15% in between. That other 15%, it goes to the school. Many schools just give that all as scholarships. Other schools take that 15%. But that 15% then the school can use as operating funds, as a building fund. Some schools keep that money for late applicants. You have someone who comes in October, really needs the school, doesn't have the money. You have that 15% that you can then distribute as you need. So that amount is very flexible. So that's the benefits, but then the question is, how do I get there? You know, what does it take to be able to do that? And so on the first level you see here, the business needs to apply to the state. And when I'm talking here, a business is an LLC, partnership, S corporation, regular corporation. Those are the type of businesses that I work with. And so the business needs to apply to the state of Pennsylvania. Then Pennsylvania will look at it. It's actually called the BCED, is the department that I work with. They look at your application, make sure that everything is correct, and approve it. But that's where we come in. And we try to make it as easy for the businessman as possible. You are able to do that top line all by yourselves, but you don't have to. Often say when you're a businessman, you have many other things to do than to remember to file this one piece of paper that needs to be filed on time every year. So you can actually send your business application to us. We'll do the review process, make sure things are right. We go ahead and make sure that things are filed in a timely manner, just as early as we possibly can to give you the greatest chance of approval. If there is a problem with anything, then we will contact the state on your behalf, and we get very good service with them. Most cases are able to resolve it.
Vivian, I'm going to jump in here for just a moment. And what I hear you say, I would just want to pick up on the timing of this. It is really vital that the applications are in actually the first day that they can be submitted. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So if you let us do it, we work to make sure that they're in when they need to be, rather than you miss it by a day or two and you're probably out.
And that does depend on where you're at in the filing. If you're a brand new business, it is crucial. It is July 1. If you do June 30th, you're too early. If you do July 2nd, you're too late. I mean, there is no option but July 1. On a repeat business, on a year 1 of 2, your first year, I try really hard to get that in on May 15, which is the first day we can file. Repeat businesses always have early filing privileges, but we never know when the state is going to run out of funds. There is a limited number of funds, and so we say, yes, we have until June 30th to get that in, but if the state runs out of funds, they're going to approve people one day at a time. So we're going to get your application in there on May 15th. Okay, and then we are also the facilitator between businesses and families and schools. So the business sends us the money. We then, once we get a check in the mail, on a weekly basis, we notify schools saying, you have so much money in your account. Schools then let families know, give them family applications, and then schools do things differently. We try to be as flexible as we possibly can. So many schools have the family sending the application directly to us. We process the application, figure out how much each family should get. We have a whole computerized program that does that. And then we send that back to the school. Once the school approves the awards, we then send the check directly to the school. The school applies it to the family tuition. We send a notice to the families telling them how much money they have. So that's kind of in short how we work between businesses and the families. And just to be clear there, a business cannot give money directly to the school. So we're not just a handy little spot there in the middle. It's actually very required. Because, and then I have to keep track of every penny. And we have to report that to the state saying how much we've done, which counties, how many students. You know, all of that is reported to the state then on a yearly basis.
So what I'm hearing, Vivian, is that businesses have a choice. They can choose to just do all this, do the research, figure this out themselves, and write a check, or they can ask you to do all the work, except for writing the check.
And the fascinating thing is it costs the same either way.
Okay, very good. So a question for you. We've talked about businesses and so on, but the school part of this, does any school qualify to be a part of EITC?
That is something I'm working on. So the regulations say that any school where the mandatory attendance requirements by the state is met. So where we've come out at on that is a school needs to be organized as a school. It needs to be more than one family, and it needs to have tuition. Now that last one, there are some caveats when it's a full school, but when it is a hybrid school, those are the three things we're looking at for what qualifies.
Okay, thank you. So if there's a business here that's saying, I would have an interest in applying for tax credits, what's their chance of being approved right now?
0. It is past July 1.
So what are we doing here?
Good question. That's why Lucy's here for.
And we've been working on the question of what is EITC, and now three letters, what's SPE?
So, 3 years ago, when we first applied with our first special purpose entity, we applied for $830,000, and I really thought we were shooting for the moon. Well, we didn't get anything approved that year. But this year so far, we've been approved for $2.72 million, and we're expecting more as the July 1 applications are processed. I'm Lucy Miller, the SPE coordinator at Faith Builders. Abby Wingard also assists me as needed. And SPE stands for Special Purpose Entity, and it simply is one purpose that's approved by the state of Pennsylvania, and that is to receive contributions for scholarships and disperse them to a scholarship organization 100%. So an SPE is a business set up as an LLC partnership. We apply to the state for EITC tax credits, just like any other Pennsylvania business. Upon state approval, then, we seek members to contribute up to the limit approved. So, looking at Vivian's sheet here, we just add one level. We get a business or an individual to become a part of this business that's applying to the scholarship organization to the state of Pennsylvania.
So, just to clarify that again, the SPE that we started is the business.
A business.
That is applying for tax credits, and that's where you said we've already been approved for tax credits this year.
That's right.
Yeah.
We send 100% of those contributions to a Pennsylvania registered scholarship organization, and we have a really handy one across the hall called Faith Builders Scholarship Services. The LLC, Faith Builders Special Purpose Entities, receives a Pennsylvania tax credit of 90% of total contributions. And then we file the tax documents to pass through those tax credits to the partners in the exact percentage of ownership, which means that each member receives 90% of their contribution as a tax credit to apply directly to their Pennsylvania tax liability. So what is the big news? Why are we here tonight? We received approvals for over $1 million more than we had last year. Something like $1.7 million more than we had last year.
In tax credits.
In tax credits. And we still have about 850,000 of those. 800,000 of those not applied for. We've not admitted quite all of those, of the ones that we have pending. So why go the route of the SPE? As we said, it's too late to file for 2021 tax credits, and these tax credits that we have currently apply to the 2021 tax year.
Lucy, a question that I suspect a lot of people have is, and it's already been referenced here this evening, that is okay, there's some tax credits available, but is it too complicated for me to get involved with this, to join the SPE or whatever I have to do to fill out all the paperwork? So can you walk us through the application process?
Okay. So we did just develop a software this last year that allows us to do an online application, to solicit applications online. We do still have the paper route if you prefer that route. There is an operating agreement, a two-sided operating agreement on the back of your handout that you got. You will agree to that whether you apply by paper or online. You put in exactly the same information whether you do paper or online. So there's the two-sided paper, includes schools and your personal information or whether you're applying as a business. Here's the screen you'll see when you click on the link for the online application. There's a link in your packets. You're choosing to apply as an individual, as a business, who qualifies to join. As Vivian said, for-profit companies such as LLCs, C Corps, S Corps, single-member LLCs, owners or employees of such companies. And if none of those work because you're a sole proprietor, you can be a stockholder in a company registered to do business in Pennsylvania. And you can ask me for more details on that later.
So basically, just about everybody qualifies.
You can qualify, just
Through the
about.
SBE.
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't qualify because of my job, because it's a nonprofit, but I could qualify as a stockholder.
Yeah.
When you click individual, you will get to this side and it'll step you right through filling in all the spots. If you click business, you'll get this screen and it'll just step you right through all you need, give you prompts.
So it's basically just address information, phone number, email, that kind of stuff.
Social security number,
Sure.
EIN.
Okay.
Next, you'll choose your schools. You press that Add School button. There's a drop-down list. You put each one in until you have your total. If I could get there we go. Your total contribution is added up there. That minimum is $3,000 for our SPE. So it won't let you go on until you have at least $3,000 there. You can modify that by clicking on any of the links there. Here's the legal jargon you have to agree to. There is a minimum 2-year commitment under ordinary circumstances. Clicking here submits the application, but it comes to me and you can call or email to revise it. We'll send out a confirmation email. You make sure everything is done right and there are no surprises. You let us know.
Okay, so in other words, if I make a mistake filling it out, I don't have to worry too much. I can give you a call and you'll take care of it.
That's right.
Okay, thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Vivian. That gives us an overview of both of those two programs. Before we move into your questions, I did want you to hear from two donors, two participants in the program, just to talk about their experience. One is here this evening and one is not. So here's the one who's not here with us.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dwayne Berge, and I'm excited to be able to share with you virtually tonight some of our experiences with the Pennsylvania EITC and SPE programs, and especially our connection with Faith Builders in using this program. Back in 2018, one of our family members talked to me and shared with me the great opportunity that we have as Christians to be able to take Pennsylvania state tax dollars and move them into Christian education in Pennsylvania. Well, the program is relatively simple. There are a lot of technicalities that are involved behind the scenes that might prohibit someone from doing it on their own. And so that is where Faith Builders has been such a blessing for us in utilizing the program. They make it very simple. We just need to basically try to understand your tax liability for the year and then make a donation, and they pretty much handle the rest. And it's just been a great experience working with the program. And I would say it's largely due to Faith Builders and the work that they do behind the scenes for us. We've been working with Lucy on the process, and she's very technical and understands the program well. We even have found that she had some connections where she could get some information from the state when we had some questions on our taxes, that she had a direct line there that she could help us and actually gave us more information than our accountant was able to do. So there's a lot of things that are really reassuring about the program. I would say in closing, as I've talked to different of the people that I know and our family members that are utilizing the program, I just really think that we all need to consider using it. It just is a tremendous tool that we have right now at our disposal to basically takes money that would otherwise go to state taxes, and a lot of us probably wouldn't be as comfortable with how that is being used, and being able to deploy it into God's kingdom and work of Christian education in the state of PA. And so we just have had a really great experience, and I would really love to talk to anybody individually about it. If you'd like to talk to me personally, I would love to hear from you and just share further of our experiences. But appreciate the opportunity to share tonight, and thank you for your interest in the program.
Good evening, everyone. This has been very interesting to me, and you folks probably all sitting there were probably just like I was not too long ago. What is Faith Builders? And it's been a great experience. And first, I want to thank God and everybody here for the opportunity to be here. My name is Emery Yoder. I am from Thompsontown, PA. We have a pallet shop, Locust Run Pallet. If you ever get up in that area, stop in and say hi. Just like we had heard that I would be happy to share there as well. The experience that the experience of this here, of course, my accountant had given me the opportunity of this, and whenever I heard this, you hear taxes, and if you're like me, you're thinking, what is this really all about? You're sure that this money is going to go where they say it is? I did some research, and I can assure you that the money does go where it's supposed to be. And also, I think Lucy, the whole staff there at Faith Builders, has been really easy to work with there as well. I think it's really been, just that alone, I think is a good experience just to talk to the staff there as well. They're very helpful, they're friendly, always willingness to go the extra mile. Also, if you have any questions, they'll say they'll get back to you. They'll get back to you in a very timely manner there as well. If you have any doubts or any questions, I would certainly encourage you here this evening, tomorrow, next day, next week, just to give it a try. I don't think you'll be disappointed. With that, thank you. And I do wish everybody the Lord's blessing.
So we have this space right now in the SPE. We heard 800,000 or plus. And you may say, okay, if we apply for some, will we get approved for that? Or who gets approved? And the reality is we may have more applications for that 800,000 of tax credits than we have space. So we will have to make decisions. We use a number of criteria in those decisions. One is we tend to give the earlier applications precedence here, but that's not the only thing, but earlier ones certainly count. Also, we do keep an eye out for underfunded schools. And so if there are some schools that just are getting a lot of money per student and so on, may not rank quite as high as those schools that are not getting as many funds. We also consider those who are designating a portion for the schools associated with Faith Builders. We started the SPE. Initially, one of our concerns was financing the schools there at FB, both the Christian school as well as the Training Institute. And so that is something that is considered as well. We're delighted, though, that the size of this is much beyond what Faith Builders would need. And so we're just so grateful to be able to extend this to all the other schools, or many other schools that are out there as well.
So that was the first question, who's approved? Second question, some people ask us, can we, those of you who know about Faith Builders know that we have both a K-12, but we also have a college level program called the Training Institute. And so sometimes we get the question, can we designate funds for Faith Builders Training Institute? The short answer is yes, but it's a really good question because the Training Institute is not a K-12 school, and that's what this program is for. However, a scholarship organization, an EITC scholarship organization, must pass through 80% of the donations for student scholarship, as Vivian was describing. Because it's 80%, that gives us a window, that 20% window, to use for Faith Builders associated programs like the Training Institute. And so as long as it's not more than 20% of the scholarship organization's donations, there is space to designate for TI. Now, want to open it up? What are your questions?
If you could first just refresh for us the eligibility requirements for contributing for doing this program. Okay,
and are you asking, he was asking about eligibility requirements for the program, EITC or SPE?
EITC.
EITC, Vivian.
The EITC itself has to be a business LLC partnership corporation. And those businesses need to file on July 1 to get in. When you file on July 1, because of the limited number of funds, I know it's like 185 million, but that's still a limited number of funds. If you file as a business that way, it could take you several years before you finally get high enough on the list to get in. Some people get in immediately, others I've had filing for 5 years. So because of that, we're kind of, right now, kind of pushing that in the background because what has happened here is Lucy, as the owner of the SPE business, has filed, she's been approved. We are in the 3rd year. What happens now when you get into the 3rd year is we get to reapply. So the first year, you know, Lucy applies, I think you got approved for like 200,000. Well, when we come back to year 3, we are now able to apply for over 830,000, which is what has ballooned this. We have early filing privileges. Now we can open the door to any business or individual to now get in. But I think a good follow-up to that would also be, so who can get into SPE?
The SPE can accept partners who are individuals, and that's where you have 3 options. You can be the owner of an LLC, partnership, or corporation, registered to do business in Pennsylvania. You can be an employee of one of those businesses, or you can be a stockholder in a company that's registered to do business in Pennsylvania. That includes most mutual fund, like most mutual funds would have US-wide companies in them, like Walmart and Target or whatever. But it can also be something like Pennsylvania Power, like a local power company.
Okay, so the one other thing I would mention here, though, is that our scholarship organization, our SPEs, do put a minimum of a $3,000 contribution, which would suggest the taxpayer ought to be making a $2,700 or have $2,700 of tax liability in Pennsylvania for it to work out for them. You want to add to that?
That's, and one thing that Vivian was mentioning too is that maybe one partner wants to participate in this and another one doesn't in a business, and you can do that as an individual. Or maybe the one partner, even though they may be 50-50, and that's how they would get the tax credits, one partner may have rental income that they want to cover with the tax credit that the other partner doesn't have. So it gives you much more flexibility if you can meet that 3,000 minimum.
So any organization, any business that qualifies for EITC will also qualify for an SPE. In fact, there's quite a bit of flexibility with the SPE that makes it attractive for some businesses more than the traditional route. Okay, who else? Andrew.
So I'm hearing that an individual employed by a nonprofit organization is not eligible to participate in that capacity alone, but that could be fixed by becoming a stockholder of, say, DPM.
That's exactly right. Being a sole proprietor, being a nonprofit employee does not qualify you, but it does not disqualify you either. You just have to find another way to get qualified.
Okay. Yes.
Am I correct in understanding that as a business, a filing as a business, if I go to the SPE, that could permanently replace the need to file for EITC, or do I get kicked off the SPE after the 2-year period to then file for EITC?
Good question.
I'll let Vivian answer that.
If you are currently in the EITC and everything is going well, I say stay there. Because that opens up the SPE then for people who are not currently in there. If you're not currently in the SPE, I mean the EITC, getting my letters mixed up. So if you're not currently a business filing directly, and you go with Lucy as the SPE, she will give you priority for however long as you want to be a part.
That's said well. We give current members priority to renew and increase the amount after 2 years. Or decrease if something's changed in that.
Follow up to that then. So if I'm in the SPE, that doesn't necessarily give me a head start for EITC because it's a totally different entity, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I stay there or I step out and wait another couple of years maybe until I'm approved.
I would say that if you apply as a business to EITC, you stick with the SPE until you get in through the EITC. That would definitely be a possibility. You can apply to both, in other words, and withdraw from the SPE if you're, that has happened.
And I would just say with that, it really does depend on the dollar amount. You know, if you're looking at 10,000 or less, I would strongly encourage just staying with SPE, never messing, going directly as an EITC. If you're looking at 100,000 in that range, there would definitely be some value in looking at applying as a business and we working with you until you get to that point.
Okay, good questions. Keep them coming.
2 small questions. The one is there any reporting required by the school once they get the funds from Faith Builders? Is there any reporting as far as what percentage you use for tuition, what you use for capital expense or operating?
Vivian?
We work with schools 2 different ways. So the one I talked about the most is when we actually do all the paperwork, we send the families how much they're supposed to be getting. So we've taken care of all that reporting. The other way is schools tell us how we're going to use the money. That is the reporting we get. So we go underneath the assumption that if you tell us that 80% is going to these families, that is exactly what's happening. At this point, schools have to do no reporting with the state directly. I got a scare this last spring that they were going to add that on. They didn't get it through, and I'm hoping that's where it remains. There's some other things they didn't get through. Usually I have a pretty good finger on the pulse on what's happening. This year I had 0. I thought we were reducing things were getting tighter. The state ended up increasing it by 40 million. I'm not quite sure what happened to all my sources.
So a follow-up to that then is when we tell you that we're going to be using 80% for tuition, when you give the amounts to the parents, that's already figured. They won't necessarily know that 20% is going to the school.
That is correct.
When someone wants to give and you said it has to be a 2-year commitment, and they can't make it the second year, what happens?
We do have a caveat in there that you can find a replacement. The reality is, so far, we've been very happy to help you find that replacement.
Notice she looked at me to see if she could say that.
But if you do sign, one of those check marks that you make on the application, and one of the things that you agree to on the paper application is that you will take responsibility for the second year. And so it is communicating with us if you feel for some reason that you cannot make it.
The window of opportunity for the 2021 tax year.
I'm really glad you asked that. That flitted through my mind a couple of times and I didn't get it said. We do really need this money in the next 2 weeks in order to meet our commitment. We have a short 60-day window that was opened back in September. So here in November, we need to get this tied up and get it dispersed, notify the schools. Many of the schools are waiting anxiously to see what their totals are. So we're really looking at 2 weeks from tomorrow, that we need to get this tied up. So that is something that makes the accountants scramble a little bit, I think. Yes.
So you're saying this is on the contributor side, there's only 2 weeks to apply and become a part of the SPE? Is that what I'm hearing?
For the current approvals that we have, we do hope to have more approvals, and last year.
So yes, the $800,000 window or the $1 million window right now, that's what we are needing to fill in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we need applications for that amount. If we don't have applications for the full amount, we don't have to use it all. But we would like to. It's available.
That is one thing I was going to say. I would hate to leave this money lying on the table and not passing it through to the schools just because we don't get it.
So do the applications need to be in, or the applications and money?
Applications and money.
Is that a state deadline or something, or is that just something that you need?
Yes, it's a state deadline.
State, yeah.
We have just a little window there to do our work and finalize everything, but it's driven by the state requirements.
As a parent asks today, do they have to give over and above the taxes? In your example, it was $1,000 that they were donating and then $9,000 coming from their taxes. Do they have to give over and above the amount of taxes owed?
The contributor will get 90% in tax credits. So if, for example, if they owed $10,000 in taxes and they gave $10,000, they would still owe $1,000 in taxes. If they owed only $7,500 and they got $9,000, you can't. That's not a refundable tax credit. But it's like our local tax preparer said, where can you get 75% on your money?
So, and I don't know what all the concern is there, but let's say they owe $10,000 in taxes. They can give $5,000. They can make a $5,000 donation. They can certainly donate under that, just they won't get a tax credit to cover everything.
And you can't say, well, I've got a $3,000 tax liability, and therefore I want to give $3,000. You get only 90% of whatever you give.
ITC, is that maxed out, you're saying? Did I hear you correctly? Or it's hard to get in? I mean, our company's been in it for years, and so it's hard for new companies to get in.
It is. Now, I'm hoping this year with the $40 million that was increased, we're going to get some new ones in. But like last year, I think there was about as many on the waiting list as what got in, according to the state. But even just in our small piece, I don't know my numbers, but I think we must have filed for about 50 new businesses, and I think 5 got in. And so what the state does on their level is, they do the early filing first, work down through those, and then everyone who files on July 1 that's on equal plane, I'm told gets thrown into an Excel spreadsheet and is done by random sort, and then they start at the top and they work down through. Every time someone defaults, they award the next business on the list. And so Lucy and I are both known to give our friend Jim a call and say, so where's this business on the list? Or where's this, And that's how we'll work with someone. Like we have new businesses right now that we've been working really hard with the state. They have not done the July 1 applications yet. Because we want to say, okay, if we have a July 1 application that's not approved, let's get them in this way. Well, the state's not telling us.
So back to you. Do you have a follow-up?
I do have a follow-up because there was one of the questions asked about, so when we started with the program, we were a little like this, and also we didn't do it the full amount we could take, and now we're maxing it out, so if we had a bad year, you said there is options getting other people in, but if they're full, can you get people in?
Okay, when you're directly in EITC, you can't.
Okay, it's the SPE that...
It's the SPE that you can do some of that playing back and forth.
Okay, and one of the things I want to be sure I hear you talk about is if someone here is saying, I know some businesses or individuals that are interested or might be interested, what do these folks do?
We have a whole packet full of information about the SPE and about schools that you may want to support back on the table.
We've talked a lot about the Pennsylvania state taxes. Is there other states you work with?
No. I don't know what all the roots of the EITC program are in government, but I do know the Catholic schools have been very significant in getting this program instituted here in the state. So that's some credit, significant credit is due.
This is more of feedback, I guess, just to make sure I'm understanding. So if I'm an employee of Superior Plastic Products, and the only filing document I have is a W-2.
That works.
Okay, that's what I would think. As long as my tax liability on the state level is over $3,000, correct?
It'd be $2,700 for you to use the entire amount.
Okay.
And again, if you can use only $2,000, you just gave an extra $700 to the school.
Okay, but that $700 still goes to the school whether or not.
That's right. It doesn't change. The tax credit is completely separate from the tax liability. Completely separate from what the school gets. The school gets 95% no matter what.
But yeah, the reality is that let's say you only owe $1,000 in taxes. If you're willing to make a $3,000 contribution to a school, you can still get a $1,000 tax. I mean, you get more than a $1,000 tax credit. You won't need it all, but so, yeah.
So another question I had, you talk about the SBE and the ITC. Does that get funded, or the disbursement all goes through the ITC, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I give my money just like Zimmerman there gives his money to Vivian to disperse to the schools. I give my money to Vivian to.
And that's just a good faith agreement.
I have to.
It's more than good faith. It's the way it happens. It's our agreement.
By law, I have to give it to a scholarship organization.
Part of it is, as you heard Lucy talking about it, if you participate in the SPE, there is no cost whatsoever. If the SPE was totally just on its own, Lucy would be donating her time. But because we have this agreement, basically, if we put this in real business terms here, I'm paying Lucy's wage.
Just a reminder, if an individual does it, don't file your taxes so you get the K-1 from the SPE. Yes.
I do send those out by the end of January. Very latest 1st of February, we have an agreement with our local tax preparer that he gets those to me promptly. And The one thing to be cautious on there, if you do apply as a business, the business must file its own Rev 1123 to pass through the tax credits to the individuals. Therefore, I think it's in the packet. We strongly recommend, if you're a single member LLC, just save yourself the expense and file as an individual, apply as an individual to the SPE, because you just avoid one more tax document you have to file.
So I heard that if you're a partner, let's say you're under a 50% partner, that's fine with this program, and you would file as an individual if your partner does not want to be included as a business.
That's right.
Maybe just as a bit of addition to the earlier discussion there, Faith Builders does have an annual audit that includes the scholarship services components and so on. So that's all part of that process.
One thing that we should have maybe mentioned is we have a list of schools in there that we currently disperse funds to, but that is certainly not an exhaustive list of schools that qualify to become participants in the program. And one of the options in the online application is to submit contact information for a new school for us to pursue and check out.
So what does a new school, or I should say, what does a school need to do to become involved?
Basically, they have to agree to it. And by agreeing to it is that they actually will reduce the family's tuition by the amount they receive, and that it does fit their values as a school. And for those of you in Anabaptist, the Mennonite schools, you know how the treasurer changes from year to year. I am very fine with training in the new treasurer. I'm doing it all the time. It works well, and it's not a hard process to make that transition.
Yes?
So a little different path there. So if we were a school receiving, say, let's say $20,000 worth, and half of our families qualify, and the other half, say we have 10 families that qualify, 5 families that qualify, 5 that don't. How do we disperse that money? Is that something that Faith Builders takes care of? Because obviously,
Why do the 5 families not qualify? Their incomes are too high, or?
well, I'm just kind of using that as an example, yes. So there is income levels, and once you're over a certain amount, but you do not qualify, I'm correct on that. So if let's say 5 of your families do not qualify, and the other 5 qualify, and for example, you have 20,000, and within those 5 that qualify, there's a varying income there. How do you disperse that? Is that something that Faith Builders takes care of it, or is that up to the school board as a board to?
That depends how your school is set up. If you have it set up that we do the paperwork, then we have a computerized system, and it goes by a number of funds available, family size, family income, and family tuition amounts. And it takes all the families that qualify into a pool and figures out how much each one should get based on those parameters. We do have our program set up that no family gets more than a 70%. Now, a school can override that. But when we actually just run through the system, we limit it at 70. And that brings just a level of fairness into the whole formula basis.
Does that answer your question?
It does. So is there an extra surcharge for Faith, like if Faith Builders takes care of that? Do you take some more money out of that program?
We charge $13 per family.
On an annual basis.
And we take that $13 out of the discretionary fund, is where we take that money out. We never send a bill to anyone. Families do not pay anything. It just comes right out of the discretionary fund portion.
And I'm assuming you let the families know that?
Yes. When we do the service for the $13, the family sends the application directly to us. We make sure they qualify. We then tell the families we've received their application. We run the formulas, we send it to the school looks at the numbers and says, yes, tuition amounts are right, everything is correct here. You can also say, but this family just had a house fire, we'd like to give them 100%. We'll rerun the numbers. When everything is agreed upon. We then send the school a check with a list of how much each family should be credited, and then we send each family a letter along with thank you postcards. And the school has to do nothing else.
What happens if there's no money left over? If the school doesn't use all of the
You want to repeat the question?
Yeah, if the school, she's asking if the school cannot use all the money and there's leftover money, what happens? So first what happens is the state says you have 2 years to use the funds. So if you receive the money like this year in the 21-22 school year, you can either use that money this year or you can hold it to the 22-23 school year. If you cannot use it by the end of the 22-23 school year, actually by about February, I put the cutoff on, then I need to go back to the businessman and say, what is the next school you want to choose? And we find another school to take the money.
I think you can see that I'm not sure if you can ask a question on this subject that they can't answer. And just really, really grateful for their work and their expertise. We've been really positive about this program, and clearly it is a tremendous blessing to our schools. However, there's a caution that I want to put out there for us, and that is that while this is not a government handout program. This is not putting money into the government and they, in their budget, setting aside some money that they're going to give to schools. It's not that. It's truly a tax credit program, which is quite different. But at the same time, like government handouts, it can create dependency in our schools. If we start having a significant amount of funds that are coming in, that are keeping our schools going through this, we're going to find it difficult if for some reason the program is discontinued or we can't participate in it. And I see both of those as possibilities. The state may decide to eliminate it. Now, frankly, right now, it doesn't look like the state's interested in getting rid of this program. There's a lot of support for it. However, governments change. Times change, and so there's no guarantee that this program will continue to exist. But secondly, we know that governments put requirements on programs like this from time to time that change whether we're able to participate or not. And it's very possible that they could put requirements on here that would violate our beliefs and values. And as a scholarship organization, when that time comes, we're committed to not being a part of this. And I suspect that most of the schools we work with would also not be a part of it, or those businesses. This will affect businesses, schools, and scholarship organizations alike, your ability to participate. So I would just encourage us all to be, particularly the schools here, to be talking about and planning for the times when this program is no longer available.